My name is Amara Williams. I'm 34 years old, and I'm a criminal prosecutor. 3 days ago, my twin sister walked into my office at midnight covered in bruises so severe I barely recognized her. When she told me her husband did this, I made a decision that would change both our lives forever. I swapped places with her, and I made damn sure he would never forget it. You see, when your identical twin shows up bleeding and broken, begging you not to call the police because she's too scared something inside you just snaps. I've spent 12 years putting violent criminals behind bars. Never did I think I'd have to become one to save my own sister, but here we are, and I'd do it all over again. I need you to understand something about me and my sister. We're not just twins. We're identical. Same face, same voice, same walk, same mannerisms. Growing up, even our parents couldn't tell us apart sometimes. We used to switch places in school, fool our teachers, play pranks on boys who couldn't figure out which twin they were talking to. It was all fun and games back then, innocent. We were inseparable, two halves of the same soul. That's what our grandmother used to say. But life has a way of pulling people apart. After college, I went to law school. Zara became a nurse. I moved to the city, working 100-hour weeks at the district attorney's office prosecuting rapists, murderers, gang members. Zara stayed in our hometown working at the community hospital, healing people, saving lives. I was chasing justice. She was chasing peace, maybe normalcy, a family. And that's when she met Derek Cole. God, I should have seen it coming. I should have paid more attention. But I was too busy building cases, taking down drug rings, putting away wife beaters. The irony isn't lost on me. I was prosecuting men who did exactly what Derek was doing to my sister, and I was too blind to see it happening right under my nose. I missed the warning signs. I missed everything. Derek seemed perfect at first. Investment banker. 6-figure salary. Drove a Mercedes. Lived in a nice house in the suburbs. Charming as hell. The kind of man who sends flowers and writes poetry and says all the right things. At their wedding, he gave this speech about how Zara was his angel, his salvation, how he'd spend his whole life protecting her. I remember looking at my sister in her white dress, glowing with hope, and thinking she deserves this. She deserves to be loved like this. I was such a damn fool. The distance between us grew after the wedding. At first, I thought it was natural. She had a husband now, then a baby, my nephew Jamal. I had cases stacking up, murderers to prosecute, appeals to fight. We went from talking every day to once a week, then once a month, then just holidays and birthdays. And every time I saw her, she seemed smaller, quieter, like someone was slowly erasing her, turning down her volume, dimming her light. Her nursing scrubs hung looser on her frame. Her smile never reached her eyes anymore. She stopped wearing makeup, stopped doing her hair, stopped caring about anything. I told myself I was imagining things. I told myself marriage changes people. Motherhood changes people. I told myself a lot of lies because the truth was too horrifying to face. My twin sister, my other half, was being destroyed right in front of me, and I was too blind to see it until 3 days ago. It was a Tuesday night. I remember because I was working late on a murder case. Gang shooting, 3 dead, including a 14-year-old girl. I was in my office reviewing autopsy photos, drinking cold coffee at 11:45 p.m. when my phone rang. Private number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Amara. It was Zara's voice, but wrong. Broken. Wet, like she was talking through blood. Please, I need help. I can't go to the hospital. I can't call the police. Please. Where are you? Your parking garage. Level 3. Please hurry. He thinks I'm at the store. I don't have much time. I ran. Grabbed my keys, didn't even shut down my computer, just ran down 12 flights of stairs because I couldn't wait for the elevator. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I already knew. Somewhere deep in my gut, I already knew what I was about to see. I found her crumpled between 2 cars in the darkest corner of the garage, and what I saw will haunt me for the rest of my life. Her face was destroyed. Left eye swollen, completely shut, the skin around it black and purple. Her lips split open, still bleeding. Her nose clearly broken, blood crusted under her nostrils, down her chin. Finger-shaped bruises around her throat, 4 on one side, 1 on the other. Someone had choked my sister. Her right arm hung at a wrong angle, broken. And when she tried to stand up, she screamed and collapsed. Broken ribs. At least 3 from how she was holding her side. Who did this? But I already knew the answer. There's only one person who gets that close, who has that kind of access, who can hurt you where no one else can see. Derek. She whispered his name like a curse, like a prayer. He came home drunk. Dinner wasn't ready. He just started hitting me. And his mother Simone, she held me down while he kicked me. And Jamal saw everything. My baby saw everything, and I couldn't protect him. I couldn't even protect myself. I felt something inside me crack. Not break. Explode. A rage so pure and volcanic it burned through every professional boundary I'd ever built, every ethical line I'd ever drawn. This wasn't just a victim. This wasn't just a case. This was my sister, my twin, the other half of my soul. I helped her into my car, drove to my apartment, got her inside and locked the door. Then I made her strip down to her underwear, and I photographed every injury. Every bruise, every cut, every mark. Prosecutor mode. Evidence. Always building evidence. I documented everything while she cried silently, trying not to make noise because Derek had trained her that crying made it worse. Her entire torso was a canvas of violence. Old yellow bruises fading into new purple ones. Belt marks across her back where he'd whipped her. Cigarette burns on her shoulders. Bite marks on her breasts. And between her legs, bruising that told me he'd raped her too. Not just beat her. Raped her. How long? I managed to ask through clenched teeth while I photographed the evidence. For years. She said it so quietly I almost didn't hear. It started 6 months after we got married. For years. For years of this hell, and I hadn't known, hadn't seen, hadn't been there. Tell me everything. I said. From the beginning. Every detail. I need to know what we're dealing with. And so she told me. God, the things she told me. It started small. Control disguised as love. Derek wanted to know where she was all the time, who she was talking to, what she was doing. He said it was because he loved her so much, couldn't stand the thought of anything happening to her. He started criticizing her clothes, too revealing, making her look like she wanted attention from other men. So she started dressing more conservatively. Then it was her friends. He didn't like them. Said they were bad influences trying to break up their marriage. So she stopped seeing them. Then it was her family. He said I made Zara feel inadequate, that our parents favored me, that being around us made her depressed. That wasn't true. That was never true. But she believed him, or at least she was too exhausted to fight. So the calls stopped, the visits stopped. He isolated her completely. And I let it happen because I was too busy prosecuting other people's abusers to notice my own sister was dying. The first time he hit her was because she got home from work 10 minutes late. Such a small thing. But Derek had been tracking her phone, and he knew her shift ended at 6, and she didn't get home until 6:15, and something in him just snapped. He grabbed her by the hair, dragged her to the bedroom, and slammed her head against the wall. Told her if she couldn't respect his time, she didn't deserve his respect. She said she was in shock, couldn't believe it had happened. He apologized the next morning, brought her roses, cried, swore it would never happen again. And like a fool, her word not mine, she believed him. But it did happen again and again and again. Every time he lost money at the stock market, and he gambled, constantly blowing tens of thousands on risky trades, he came home and took it out on her. Every time his boss criticized him, she paid for it. Every time his mother called and complained about something, Zara became the punching bag. And Simone, Derek's mother. She moved in with them 2 years ago when her husband died, and that's when things got exponentially worse. Because Simone didn't just enable her son's violence. She participated in it. Zara told me about the psychological torture. How Simone would criticize everything she did. Her cooking was disgusting. Her cleaning was substandard. Her parenting was too soft. She was a terrible wife. A worthless daughter-in-law. Simone would tell Derek lies, that Zara was lazy, that she was stealing money, that she was probably cheating. And Derek would beat Zara based on his mother's lies. Then there was Jamal. My nephew. 7 years old. Bright-eyed, sweet, innocent, and he was watching all of this. Witnessing his father beat his mother, learning that this was normal, that this was love. He'd started wetting the bed, having nightmares, acting out at school. And when Zara tried to get him therapy, Derek forbade it. Said therapy was for weak people and his son wasn't weak. The thing that made me see red, the thing that pushed me over the edge, was what she told me happened 2 days ago. Derek came home drunk again. Dinner wasn't ready because Zara had been at work all day saving lives at the hospital and she'd gotten home late. Derek grabbed her by the throat and started choking her in the kitchen. Jamal ran in screaming for his father to stop. And Derek looked at that 7-year-old boy and said, "This is what happens to disobedient women." Then he kept choking Zara until she passed out. When she woke up, Jamal was in the corner crying and Simone was standing over her saying she deserved it for being a bad wife. "I can't do this anymore, Amara," Zara whispered. "I can't. I've tried to leave before, but he always finds me. He tracks my phone, my car, everything. He controls all the money. And he said if I ever try to take Jamal away from him, he'll kill me and make it look like an accident. I believe him. I know he'll do it. So I don't know what to do. I came here because I don't have anywhere else to go." I looked at my sister, my identical twin, my other half, and I saw what 4 years of systematic torture had done. It had taken this vibrant, joyful, brilliant woman and turned her into a ghost to shell someone who was just waiting to die. And that's when I said the words that would change everything. "You're not going back there. Give me 3 days. Just 3 days, and I promise you he'll never touch you again." She looked at me like I was crazy. "What are you talking about? We're going to switch places." My mind was already working, already building the case. "You and me were identical. No one can tell us apart. You're going to stay here in my apartment safe. And I'm going to go be you for 3 days. I'm going to walk into that house as Zara and I'm going to gather enough evidence to bury Derek and his mother in prison for the rest of their lives." "Amara, no. You don't understand. He's dangerous. He'll hurt you. He'll kill you." I smiled. And it wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile I give defense attorneys right before I destroy their client on the stand. "Let him try. You have to understand I'm not Zara. I look like her, sound like her, but I'm fundamentally different. Zara is gentle, soft, kind. She became a nurse because she wants to heal people, help them. She's never thrown a punch in her life. Me, I'm a prosecutor. I've spent 12 years in courtrooms facing down murderers, rapists, gang leaders. I've put men on death row. I've learned to be hard, cold, strategic, calculating. And outside of work I train. Krav Maga 4 times a week. I know how to break bones, dislocate joints, cause maximum damage with minimum effort. I know how to take a hit. More importantly, I know how to give one. So when I walked into that house on Wednesday evening, when I used Zara's keys to unlock the door and step into that suburban prison, I wasn't scared. I was ready. I was a weapon waiting to be deployed. The house looked normal from the outside. Nice neighborhood, white picket fence, 2-car garage. But the inside felt like a tomb. Dark, suffocating. The air itself felt heavy with violence and fear. I barely closed the door when I heard her. Simone's voice, sharp and vicious, cutting through the house like a blade. "Zara, is that you? Where have you been? You know Derek gets home at 6 and dinner isn't even started. You're so selfish. So lazy." I took a deep breath and channeled my sister. Made myself smaller, hunched my shoulders, lowered my eyes. Walked into the kitchen where Simone was sitting at the table, a glass of wine in her hand, her face twisted in permanent contempt. This woman had been living in my sister's house for 2 years, contributing nothing, and had the audacity to complain. "I'm sorry," I said using Zara's soft voice. "I'll start it now. You better. And make something good this time. Last night's pot roast was disgusting. I don't know how my son tolerates you." I opened the refrigerator, pulled out ingredients, started cooking. And that's when Jamal came downstairs. My heart shattered seeing him. He looked so much like Zara had as a child. Big brown eyes, curly hair. But his eyes were dead. A 7-year-old with dead eyes. He crept down the stairs like a mouse, trying not to make noise, trying not to be noticed. "Hi, baby," I whispered when he got close. He looked at me with confusion, like he could sense something was different. "Mommy." "Yeah, baby, it's me. You look different." "Do I?" "Your eyes. They're not sad." I knelt down and hugged him, and he trembled in my arms. And I made a silent promise right then. This ends now. No child should live like this. Not ever. At 6:15, I heard the garage door. Derek was home. Every muscle in my body tense, coiled, ready. I was about to face the man who had spent 4 years destroying my sister. The man who had choked her in front of her child. The man who was about to learn what it felt like to be afraid. The door slammed open and Derek Cole walked into his house like he owned the world. He was tall, about 6'3", maybe 220 pounds. Expensive suit. Designer watch. Hair perfectly styled. The kind of man who looked good in boardroom presentations and country club photos. The kind of man people would never suspect of beating his wife unconscious while his mother held her down. He was already drunk. I could smell it from across the room. Whiskey and cologne and entitlement. A toxic combination that had destroyed my sister for 4 years. Zara. He didn't greet me. Didn't ask about my day. Just barked my sister's name like I was a dog. Where's my dinner? It's almost ready. I kept my voice soft like Zara would. Submissive. Broken. Everything he expected. Almost ready. He walked toward me, and I could see the violence simmering just beneath his expensive suit. I work 12-hour days putting food on this table, and you can't even have dinner ready when I get home. What the hell do you do all day? I was at the hospital. Saving lives. Working a double shift because we needed the money. We wouldn't need money if you knew how to manage a household. He grabbed my arm. His fingers dug into the exact spot where I knew from the photos there was already a bruise. He was testing me, seeing if I'd react the way Zara always did. With fear. With submission. With tears. I didn't flinch. Didn't cry. Just looked at him. And something in my eyes must have registered because his grip loosened slightly. Confusion crossed his face. What's wrong with you? He squeezed harder, trying to get the reaction he wanted. Nothing. I'm just tired. Tired. His voice went dangerous. You're tired. I'm the one who works a real job. You just change bedpans and give out pills. That's not real work. Simone chimed in from the kitchen table right on cue, like she'd been waiting. She's always complaining, Marcus. Always acting like she has it so hard. Meanwhile, she can't even keep this house clean or cook a decent meal. Derek released my arm and walked to the stove. Lifted the lid on the pot where I was making chicken. He grabbed a spoon, tasted the sauce, and his face twisted in disgust. This is garbage. He threw the spoon across the kitchen. It clattered against the wall. You can't even make a simple dinner without ruining it. I'm sorry. I'll fix it. You'll fix it. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Just cruelty. You can't fix anything. You're useless. Completely useless. Jamal was watching from the doorway. I could see him out of the corner of my eye. 7 years old, witnessing his father verbally destroy his mother. Learning that this was how men treat women. Learning that love looked like violence. Derek saw him too. What are you looking at, boy? Get upstairs. Jamal ran. I heard his little feet pounding up the stairs and a door slamming. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From rage. Pure molten rage that I had to keep buried deep, because if I let it out now I'd ruin everything. You embarrass me in front of my son. Derek stepped closer. His breath was hot and sour on my face. You embarrass me in front of my mother. You embarrass me, period. I'm sorry, Derek. I didn't mean to. You never mean to. But you always do. He grabbed my throat. Not squeezing yet. Just holding. A reminder that he could. That he had the power. That he'd done it before and would do it again. Maybe I need to remind you what happens when you disappoint me. This was it. The moment I'd been waiting for. The moment Zara had described. The casual escalation from verbal abuse to physical violence. The way he used his size and strength to terrorize someone half his weight. His hand tightened around my throat. I could feel his fingers pressing into my windpipe. Zara would have started crying now. Begging. Apologizing. Promising to do better. I did something different. I looked him directly in the eyes. Didn't blink. Didn't look away. Just stared at him with the same look I give murderers on the witness stand right before I eviscerate their testimony. And I smiled. It wasn't a big smile. Just a slight upturn of my lips. But it was enough. Enough to confuse him. Enough to make him pause. His grip loosened. What the hell is wrong with you? Nothing's wrong, Derek. I'm just tired of being afraid. His face went red. Tired of being afraid. His hand tightened again, squeezing harder. I'll give you something to be afraid of. But I'd been trained for this. Krav Maga teaches you how to break chokes. How to use leverage and pressure points to escape someone bigger and stronger. I brought my arms up between his, creating space. Then I pressed my thumb into the pressure point just below his wrist. He yelped and released me, stumbling backward. What did you just do? I rubbed my throat where his fingers had been. You were hurting me. I was hurting you. He looked at me like I'd just spoken a foreign language. You think that was hurting you? You have no idea what hurt is. Simone stood up from the table. Derek, don't let her talk to you like that. She's being disrespectful. She needs to be taught a lesson. Derek's eyes narrowed. He was calculating, trying to figure out what had changed. Why the wife who normally cowered and begged was suddenly meeting his eyes and defending herself. You need an attitude adjustment. He raised his hand to slap me. I'd seen this in the photos Zara had shown me. The open palms strike across the face. Meant to humiliate as much as hurt. Meant to remind her she was property. His hand came toward my face fast. But I'd trained for this. Sparred with men twice my size. I shifted my weight, ducked slightly, and his palm whooshed past my ear, missing me by inches. He was off balance. I could have swept his legs, taken him down, made him feel what Zara had felt for 4 years. But that wasn't the plan. Not yet. I needed evidence. I needed him to incriminate himself. Derek caught himself before falling. Spun around. His face was purple with rage now. You moved. You deliberately moved. I flinched. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. You're sorry. He grabbed me by my hair. Zara's hair that I'd had styled exactly like hers. He yanked hard, pulling my head back, exposing my throat. You think you can disrespect me in my own house? This was escalating faster than I'd anticipated. I needed to de-escalate while still gathering evidence. I had my phone in my pocket recording everything, but I needed video, not just audio. Derek, please. I made my voice shake. I'm sorry. I'll be better. I promise. You promise. He dragged me by my hair toward the kitchen counter. Slammed my face down on the granite. You always promise and you never change. Pain exploded across my cheekbone. Real pain. He'd hit me harder than I expected. Blood filled my mouth where my teeth had cut the inside of my cheek. But I'd taken worse hits in training. Much worse. Derek. Simone's voice was excited, almost gleeful. Teach her, Derek. Show her who's in charge. He lifted my head and slammed it down again. And again. 3 times total. Each impact sending shock waves through my skull. I could feel blood running down my face from where the skin had split. But I was counting. Recording. Building my case. Every blow was evidence. Every word was ammunition I'd used to destroy him in court. After the 3rd impact, he released me. I collapsed on the floor, playing more hurt than I was. Zara would have stayed down. Would have curled into a ball and waited for it to be over. I stayed down too, but for different reasons. I was analyzing. Documenting. Planning my next move. Get up. Derek kicked me in the ribs. Not hard enough to break anything, but hard enough to hurt. Get up and clean yourself up. You're bleeding all over my floor. I pulled myself up slowly. Touched my face. Came away with blood. I looked at Derek and Simone. Both of them were watching me with satisfaction. This was normal for them. Expected. Entertainment even. I walked to the bathroom. Locked the door. Pulled out my phone and took photos of my injuries. The split skin on my cheekbone. The blood in my mouth. The bruise already forming on my ribs. Evidence. Always building evidence. Then I texted Detective Marcus Reed. He worked in the domestic violence unit. We'd collaborated on cases before. I trusted him. Need surveillance equipment. 2 hidden cameras. Audio and video. Can you get them to me tonight? His response was immediate. What's going on, Amara? Working a case. Need it off the books. Can you help? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Yeah, I can help. Where? I gave him the address. He responded within seconds. I'll be there in an hour. Delivery driver. Don't let them know who I am. I cleaned the blood off my face. The cut wasn't deep. Wouldn't need stitches. Just a butterfly bandage. I applied it carefully, making sure it would hold. Then I went back downstairs. Derek was on the couch watching television. Simone was in the kitchen finishing the dinner I'd started. Neither of them acknowledged me. That's how insignificant Zara had become in her own home. A ghost. A servant. Not even worth noticing unless she made a mistake. I went upstairs to check on Jamal. He was in his room sitting on his bed clutching a stuffed bear. When he saw me, his eyes went wide. "Mommy, your face." "I'm okay, baby." "Daddy hurt you again." "I'm okay." I knelt in front of him. "Jamal, I need you to be strong for me. Can you do that?" He nodded, but his lip was trembling. "Things are going to get better. I promise you. But right now I need you to stay in your room when Daddy gets angry. Can you do that for me?" "I always stay in my room." "Good. That's good. Mommy, are you different?" "Kids are perceptive. More perceptive than adults." He could sense that something had changed even if he couldn't articulate what. "I'm the same, Mommy. I'm not going to be scared anymore." "Why not?" "Because being scared doesn't help. And I want to protect you. So I need to be brave." He hugged me. His little arms wrapped around my neck. "I love you, Mommy." "I love you too, baby. So much." At 8 o'clock the doorbell rang. Derek shouted from the couch. "Zara." "Door." I opened it to find Detective Marcus Reed standing there in a pizza delivery uniform holding 2 large boxes. He looked at my face and his jaw tightened. But he stayed in character. "Pizza delivery for Cole residents." "We didn't order pizza." I played confused. "Says here someone ordered 2 large pizzas. Already paid for." Derek appeared behind me. "I didn't order any damn pizza." Marcus shrugged. "Well, it's paid for. Someone must have ordered it as a gift. You want it or not?" "Yeah, fine." Derek grabbed the boxes, slammed the door in Marcus's face. But in those 3 seconds, Marcus had passed me something. 2 tiny devices that looked like buttons. Hidden cameras with audio. State-of-the-art surveillance equipment that would capture everything in high definition. Derek took the pizzas to the kitchen. Started eating straight from the box. I waited until he and Simone were distracted, then I planted the first camera in the living room. Attached it to the underside of a picture frame facing the couch where Derek usually sat. The second one I put in the kitchen. Stuck to the side of the microwave where it had a clear view of the entire room. Both cameras were now recording. Everything Derek did. Everything he said. All of it evidence that would bury him. That night Derek came to the bedroom drunk. Stumbled in at midnight reeking of whiskey. I was lying in bed pretending to be asleep. He grabbed me. Rough. Violent. His hands were everywhere. And I understood what Zara had meant when she said he raped her. This wasn't love. This wasn't even lust. This was violence. This was him asserting dominance. Reminding me that my body wasn't mine. That I was his property to use however he wanted. I could have stopped him. Could have broken his wrist, dislocated his shoulder. I had the training. But that would blow my cover. So I endured. Stayed still. Let him do what he wanted while I stared at the ceiling and planned exactly how I was going to destroy him. When he finished, he rolled over and passed out. Didn't say a word. Didn't check if I was okay. Just used me and discarded me like trash. I went to the bathroom. Showered. Scrubbed my skin until it was raw, trying to wash away the feeling of his hands on me. Then I took photos. More evidence. The bruises on my thighs. The marks on my wrists where he'd held me down. All of it documented. All of it ammunition. Day 2. Derek left for work at 7. Simone was still asleep. I had 2 hours before she woke up. I used every second. First, I went through Derek's home office. Found his laptop. Cracked the password using a technique I'd learned from our cybercrime unit. And what I found made my blood run cold. Financial records showing he'd been stealing from Zara for years. Her nursing salary direct deposited into their joint account. But Derek had set up automatic transfers. Every paycheck 50% went into a secret account only he had access to. Over 4 years, he'd stolen over $200,000 from her. There were also emails. Messages to his mother coordinating their abuse. Discussing how to keep Zara compliant. How to isolate her further. How to break her completely. And then I found the worst thing. A folder labeled discipline. Inside were photos. Dozens of them. Zara's beaten face. Her bruised body. Her broken ribs. Derek had been documenting his violence like trophies, like accomplishments. I copied everything, uploaded it to a secure cloud drive, sent copies to myself and to Marcus. Evidence. So much evidence that Derek would never see the outside of a prison cell again. Then I found something else. A burner phone hidden in his desk drawer. I turned it on and found messages. Derek was part of a group. 12 men. All of them sharing tips on how to control their wives. How to abuse without leaving visible marks. How to gaslight them into thinking they deserved it. How to make them too afraid to leave. I screenshotted everything. Every message. Every name. Because I wasn't just going to destroy Derek. I was going to destroy all of them. When Simone woke up, she started her daily routine of verbal abuse. Criticizing everything. The coffee was too weak. The house was too dirty. I was too lazy. Too stupid. Too worthless. I let her talk. Let her incriminate herself on camera. Every word was being recorded. Every insult. Every threat. All of it evidence that she was an accomplice to Derek's crimes. That afternoon while Simone was napping, I went through her room. Found her journal. And in it she'd written everything. How much she hated me. How she hoped Derek punish me. How she hoped one day he'd leave me, or better yet, that I'd just die. She'd written in detail about times she'd held me down while Derek beat me. Times she'd lied to doctors when I showed up at the hospital with injuries. Times she'd threatened to take Jamal away if I ever told anyone what was happening. I photographed every page. Added it to my evidence file. Simone was going to prison too. I'd make sure of it. Derek came home that night even drunker than before. He'd lost money. Some stock trade gone wrong. He was down $40,000. And he was looking for someone to blame. He stormed into the house screaming, "Zara, where the hell are you?" I came down the stairs. "I'm here." "You're here." He grabbed me by the throat, lifted me off the ground, slammed me against the wall. "Do you have any idea what you've cost me?" "I didn't do anything, Derek. You distract me. Your uselessness distracts me. If I didn't have to come home and deal with you every day, I could focus on my work." His hand squeezed tighter around my throat, cutting off my air. I could feel my vision starting to blur. This was it. The moment Zara had described. The choking that had almost killed her. But I wasn't Zara. I brought my knee apart, caught him right in the groin. He released me immediately, dropping me to the floor as he doubled over in pain. Simone screamed. "Derek, she attacked you. She actually attacked you." Derek straightened up slowly. His face was murderous. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life." He came at me again. This time I was ready. When he swung, I blocked. When he grabbed, I twisted. When he tried to hit me, I made him hit the wall instead. I wasn't fighting back. Not really. I was just defending. Making it look like accidents. Like he was so drunk he kept missing. But every miss was calculated. Every stumble was engineered. And the cameras captured all of it. Derek attacking. Me defending. The clear evidence of who the aggressor was. Finally, he gave up. Collapsed on the couch, breathing hard. His knuckles were bleeding from hitting the wall. His face was red with exertion and rage. "Tomorrow," he panted. "Tomorrow you're going to learn. Tomorrow I'm going to show you what happens to women who fight back." I didn't respond. Just went upstairs. Checked on Jamal, who was hiding under his bed crying. Held him until he fell asleep. Then I texted Marcus. "Tomorrow. Be ready. I'm going to get him to confess everything." His response was immediate. "I'll have backup standing by. Be careful, Amara." I'm not the one who needs to be careful. Day 3 started at 5 in the morning when Derek stumbled into the bedroom, still drunk from the night before. He grabbed me by the hair and dragged me out of bed. I hit the floor hard, and he stood over me, breathing heavy, reeking of whiskey and rage. "Today you learn." His voice was cold sober despite the alcohol. "Today you learn what happens when you embarrass me. When you fight back. When you forget your place. Derek, please." I kept my voice like Zara's. Broken. Terrified. But inside I was calculating. The cameras were recording. Every word. Every movement. This was it. The moment I needed him to say everything out loud. "Derek, please." "What?" He kicked me in the stomach. Not hard enough to cause serious damage, but hard enough to hurt. You think begging will help you now. You had your chance to be a good wife. You chose to be difficult instead. Simone appeared in the doorway. Her face was eager, excited, like she was about to watch her favorite show. Teach her, Derek. Show her who runs this house. Derek grabbed me by the throat again. Lifted me up. Slammed me against the wall so hard I heard the drywall crack. You are nothing. You understand me? Nothing. Without me you'd be homeless. Worthless. I gave you everything and this is how you repay me. I'm sorry. I gasped the words out even though his hand was crushing my windpipe. Sorry doesn't fix anything. He released my throat but immediately punched me in the ribs. I tensed my core muscles anticipating it so the blow didn't do much damage, but I let myself crumple anyway. Playing the victim. Letting him think he was winning. That's better. He stood over me. That's how you should always be. On the floor. Where you belong. Derek, tell her. Simone's voice was gleeful. Tell her what we discussed. Derek smiled, and it was the most evil thing I'd ever seen. My mother's right. You've been a problem for too long. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to quit your job at the hospital. You're going to stay home where I can watch you. Where you can focus on being a proper wife and mother. And if you refuse, if you even think about saying no, I'll take Jamal away from you. I'll tell the courts you're an unfit mother. That you're mentally unstable. That you abuse him. I don't abuse him. I made my voice small. Scared. Doesn't matter what's true. Matters what I can prove. And I've been documenting everything. Every time you've raised your voice. Every time you've been too tired to play with him. Every time you've made a mistake. I have it all written down. The courts will believe me over you. They always do. There it was. Confession of his plan to commit perjury. To falsify evidence. To manipulate the legal system. All recorded. All admissible in court. But I needed more. I needed him to confess to the physical abuse. To the violence. To everything he'd done over 4 years. Why? I whispered. Why do you do this to me? I've tried to be a good wife. You want to know why? Derek crouched down next to me. Grabbed my face, forced me to look at him. Because you're weak. Because I can. Because it feels good to remind you what you really are. Nothing. Just a body I own. Just a servant who should be grateful I even married her. You hurt me. Tears were running down my face. Real tears, because even though I knew this wasn't really about me, it was about Zara, it still hurt to hear someone say these things. You hit me. You choke me. You rape me. Rape. Derek laughed. You can't rape your own wife. Your body belongs to me. I do what I want with it. And you know what? He leaned in close. His breath hot on my face. I've been doing it for 4 years, and you've never once been brave enough to stop me. Simone chimed in. She deserves it, Derek. Women like her need to be kept in line. My husband used to beat me when I stepped out of line, and I was better for it. You're just doing what your father did. Exactly. Derek stood up. Started pacing. My father knew how to run a household. Women got out of control these days because men stopped disciplining them. But not in my house. In my house I'm in charge. What about Jamal? I pushed. What about when he sees you hurt me? That boy needs to learn. Derek's voice went hard. He needs to learn what it means to be a man. What it means to control a woman. I saw my father do it to my mother, and it taught me strength. Jamal will learn the same way. You choked me in front of him 2 days ago. You told him this is what happens to disobedient women. And he needed to see it. Derek was fully confessing now. Getting it all out. The arrogance. The pride in his violence. That boy was getting too soft. Too attached to you. He needed to understand that his loyalty is to me, not you. That women are beneath men. That when his wife steps out of line one day he'll know what to do. My stomach turned. This wasn't just about destroying Zara. This was about destroying Jamal too. About raising him to be another abuser. About perpetuating the cycle. I have all the evidence I need. I thought to myself. Every confession. Every threat. Every admission of violence. The cameras caught it all. But I pushed for more because I was thorough and I wanted this case to be ironclad. What about the money? I said quietly. My paychecks. Where do they go? Derek's face changed. Suspicion flickered across it. Why are you asking about money? Because I looked at our account. Half my pay is missing every month. His hand shot out and grabbed my throat again. You've been snooping. Going through my things. I just wanted to understand where our money goes. Our money. He squeezed harder. There is no our money. There's my money. Everything in this house is mine. Your paycheck is mine. This house is mine. Even you are mine. And if you keep asking questions, I'll make sure you never ask another question again. Are you threatening to kill me? I needed him to say it. Needed it on record. I'm not threatening anything. Derek released my throat. Shoved me backward. I'm making a promise. If you ever try to leave, if you ever try to take my son, if you ever go to the police, I will kill you. I'll make it look like an accident. A fall down the stairs. A car crash. Something tragic that no one will question. And then I'll take Jamal and raise him properly without your interference. You've thought about this. Planned it. Of course I've planned it. Derek was proud now. Bragging. I'm not an idiot. I know women like you eventually try to leave. So I've prepared. I know how to make it look natural. I've researched it. Talked to people who've done it. There are ways to kill someone and get away with it. And if you push me, I'll do it without hesitation. Simone nodded approvingly. Smart boy. That's my son. Always thinking ahead. I had everything now. Confessions to assault. Battery. Rape. Financial abuse. Threats of murder. Conspiracy. Child endangerment. Enough to put Derek away for 25 to 30 years minimum. Enough to put Simone away as an accomplice. But there was one more thing I needed. The burner phone. The group of abusers. I needed Derek to talk about them on camera. Derek. I made my voice weak. Submissive. How did you know what to do? How did you know how to control me? He smiled. Proud of himself. I learned from the best. There's a group of us. Men who understand that society has gotten too soft on women. We share techniques. Strategies. Ways to keep our wives in line without getting caught. A group. Online mostly. Encrypted messages. We have about 15 members now. All successful men. Doctors. Lawyers. Businessmen. Men who know how to handle their households properly. What kind of techniques? Everything. Derek was in full confession mode now. Completely unable to stop himself because he thought I was defeated. Thought he'd won. How to hit without leaving visible marks. How to gaslight them into thinking they're crazy. How to isolate them from family and friends. How to control their money. How to make them financially dependent. How to use their children against them. It's all strategy. And when you execute it correctly, the woman becomes completely compliant. And if she doesn't, I pushed. Then you escalate. That's what we call it. Controlled escalation. You increase the violence gradually until she breaks. And if she still doesn't break, Derek's eyes went cold. You remove the problem permanently. Several of our members have had to do it. Ex-wives who tragically died in accidents. The beauty is no one ever suspects because we're upstanding citizens. We're not criminals. We're just men maintaining order in our homes. I had to fight to keep my face neutral. He just confessed to being part of a conspiracy involving multiple murders. This wasn't just one case anymore. This was federal. RICO charges. Multiple jurisdictions. A criminal enterprise. Derek crouched down again. Grabbed my face. But you're not going to make me do that. Are you, Zara? You're going to be a good wife from now on. Obedient. Submissive. Exactly what you should have been all along. Yes, Derek. I whispered. Good. He stood up. Now get up. Make breakfast. And don't ever question me again. I pulled myself off the floor. Went to the kitchen. Started making breakfast while Simone sat at the table criticizing every move I made. The eggs were too runny. The toast was too dark. The coffee was too strong. Nothing was ever good enough. But I didn't care. Because I had everything I needed. For hours of recorded footage. Confessions to multiple felonies. Evidence of a criminal conspiracy. Financial records. Photos of injuries. Witness testimony from Jamal, who I'd already arranged to have interviewed by a child psychologist. At 9 o'clock, Derek left for work. Kissed Simone goodbye. Didn't even look at me. Just walked out like I didn't exist. The moment his car pulled out of the driveway, I pulled out my phone. Texted Marcus. It's done. I have everything. Send the team now. His response was immediate. 5 minutes out. Stay safe. I went upstairs. Got Jamal from his room. Baby, we're going on an adventure today. Pack your favorite toys. Where are we going? Somewhere safe. Somewhere Daddy can't hurt Mommy anymore. His little face lit up with hope. Really? Really? I packed a bag for him. Then I went to the bedroom and packed one for myself. Clothes. Documents. Everything Zara would need to start over. I also grabbed the laptop from Derek's office. The burner phone. Every piece of physical evidence I could carry. Simone noticed me coming down the stairs with bags. Where do you think you're going? Out. I didn't use Zara's voice anymore. I used my own. Strong. Clear. Confident. Derek didn't give you permission to leave. I don't need his permission. Her face went red. You ungrateful little. She stood up. Came toward me. I have put up with your attitude for 3 days and I'm done. You need to be taught respect. She raised her hand to slap me. I caught her wrist. Squeezed just hard enough to make her understand that the game had changed. Touch me and I'll have you arrested for assault. I looked her in the eyes. It's over, Simone. All of it. The abuse. The control. The violence. It's done. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that for the last 3 days every word you've said has been recorded. Every action caught on camera. Every confession documented. You and Derek are going to prison. Her face went white. You're lying. You're bluffing. Am I? I pulled out my phone. Showed her the footage from the hidden cameras. Her voice clear as day, admitting to helping Derek abuse me. Encouraging him. Participating in it. She stumbled backward. That's not. You can't. I already did. And in about 2 minutes the police are going to be here to arrest you both. Right on cue, I heard sirens. Multiple cars pulling up outside the house. Car doors slamming. Footsteps on the driveway. Someone pounded on the door. Police. Open up. I opened it. Detective Marcus Reed stood there with 6 uniformed officers behind him. Ms. Williams. Detective Reed. I stepped aside. Simone Cole is in the kitchen. You'll find her very cooperative. 2 officers moved past me. Grabbed Simone, who started screaming. This is a mistake. My son will have your jobs. Do you know who we are? Marcus looked at me. You okay? I'm fine. But we need to move fast. Derek will be at his office for another 2 hours. I want him arrested there. Maximum humiliation. Already coordinated with his employer. We'll have him in custody within the hour. I handed Marcus a USB drive. Everything's on here. For years of financial records. Photos of injuries. Video confessions. Audio recordings. Names and information about the entire abuse network he's part of. Enough evidence to prosecute 15 men across 8 states. Marcus took the drive. His hand was shaking slightly. This is... Jesus, Amara. This is massive. I know. I also need protective custody for my nephew. Child psychologist evaluation. And I need to coordinate with the FBI because this crosses state lines. Already done. We have a safe house ready. Child Services is standing by. And I contacted the Bureau this morning. They're sending agents. Good. I looked back at Simone being handcuffed and read her rights. 1 down. 1 to go. Marcus studied my face. The cut on my cheekbone. The bruises on my throat. He really did a number on you. Nothing I couldn't handle. But we need to document it. Hospital photos. Rape kit. The whole process. You were. His face went dark. Part of the evidence gathering. I kept my voice professional. Clinical. Because if I let myself feel it, I'd break down, and I couldn't break down yet. Derek raped his wife regularly. I needed to document it. Amara. I'm fine, Marcus. I'll deal with it later. Right now we have work to do. 2 paramedics came in. Started examining me. Taking photos. Documenting injuries. The same process I'd put countless victims through over the years. Except this time, I was the victim. Or pretending to be. They wanted to take me to the hospital. I refused. Not until Derek is in custody. I want to be there when you arrest him. That's not protocol. I don't care about protocol. I earned this. I took the hits. I gathered the evidence. I want to see his face when he realizes it's over. Marcus looked like he wanted to argue. But he knew me. Knew I wouldn't back down. Fine. But you stay in the car. You don't approach him. Deal. We drove to Derek's office. High-rise building in the financial district. Glass and steel and money. The kind of place where men in expensive suits made millions while their wives suffered at home. We took the elevator to the 12th floor. Derek's assistant tried to stop us, but Marcus flashed his badge. She stepped aside, eyes wide with fear. Derek was in his office on the phone. He looked up when we walked in and his face went through a series of expressions. Confusion, irritation, then recognition when he saw me standing behind the officers. And fear. Beautiful, paralyzing fear. What is this? He stood up. What's going on? Derek Cole. Marcus stepped forward. You're under arrest for aggravated assault, battery, domestic violence, rape, financial abuse, child endangerment, criminal threats, and conspiracy to commit murder. You have the right to remain silent. The phone fell from Derek's hand. This is a mistake. My wife is mentally unstable. She's making this up. I stepped forward, looked him in the eyes. I'm not your wife, Derek. I'm her sister. And I've been documenting everything you've done for the last 3 days. Every word, every hit, every confession. All of it recorded. All of it evidence. His face went white. But you look exactly identical twins. Funny how that works. I smiled. You spent 4 years beating my sister, and I spent 3 days destroying your life. I'd say that's a fair trade. The officers moved in, handcuffed him, started reading his rights. Derek was still staring at me like he couldn't process what was happening. This isn't legal, he finally said. Entrapment. My lawyers will. Well, what? I stepped closer. Every crime you committed you did willingly. Every confession you gave was unprompted. Every act of violence was your choice. There's no entrapment here, Derek. Just consequences. My mother. Also arrested. She's an accomplice. She held my sister down while you beat her. She encouraged your violence. She threatened to help you take Jamal away. She's going to prison too. You can't do this. Derek's voice was rising. Panicking. Do you know who I am? What I'm worth? I have connections. Lawyers. Had. I corrected him. Past tense. Because by tomorrow every news outlet in the state will know exactly who you are. A wife beater. A rapist. A child abuser. And part of a criminal conspiracy that's been operating for years. Your career is over. Your reputation is destroyed. And you're going to spend the next 25 years in a cell thinking about what you did. The officers started walking him out. His coworkers were gathering in the hallway. Watching. Whispering. The great Derek Cole being arrested in handcuffs. It would be office gossip for years. As they put him in the police car, I leaned down to the window. One more thing, Derek. My sister wanted me to tell you something. She's not afraid of you anymore. She's never coming back. And Jamal is going to grow up knowing that what you did was wrong. That real men don't hurt women. That he never has to be like you. Derek's face crumpled. Started crying. But I felt nothing. No sympathy. No satisfaction even. Just cold certainty that justice was being served. Marcus drove me back to my apartment where Zara was waiting. She saw me coming up the stairs and ran to meet me. Threw her arms around me. Is it done? It's done. Derek's in custody. Simone too. They're both going to prison. She started crying. Deep racking sobs that shook her whole body. For years of pain finally being released. I held her while she cried. Felt the weight of what I'd done settling on my shoulders. The violence I'd endured. The violation I'd experienced. The trauma I'd taken on to save my sister. But I'd do it again. Without hesitation. Because that's what you do for family. The trial took 8 months to prepare. 8 months of Zara healing and therapy. 8 months of Jamal slowly learning to smile again. 8 months of me working with the FBI to dismantle the entire network of abusers that Derek had been part of. The evidence was overwhelming. The recorded confessions. The financial records showing Derek had stolen over $200,000 from Zara. The photos of injuries spanning 4 years. The burner phone with messages from 15 different men, all sharing techniques on how to abuse their wives without getting caught. The FBI arrested 12 of them. Doctors, lawyers, a police captain, a judge. Men in positions of power who'd been systematically terrorizing their families for years. The case made national news. Headlines everywhere about the domestic abuse conspiracy. Derek's lawyers tried everything. They filed motions to suppress evidence claiming the recordings were illegal. Denied. They claimed I'd entrapped him. Denied. They tried to argue that Derek was the real victim, that I'd assaulted him. The judge laughed them out of court. Simone's lawyer tried a different approach, claimed she was also a victim of Derek's manipulation, that she'd been abused by her husband for 40 years and didn't know any better. But the recordings destroyed that defense. Her voice gleeful as she encouraged Derek to beat me. Her hands holding me down while he kicked me. Her threats to take Jamal away. She wasn't a victim. She was a willing participant. The prosecution was handled by the district attorney himself. This case was too high profile to delegate. But I consulted on every aspect. Helped prepare witnesses. Reviewed evidence. Built the strategy that would guarantee conviction. Jury selection took 3 weeks. We needed 12 people who could hear horrific testimony about domestic violence without becoming too emotional to deliberate. But also people who wouldn't dismiss it as just a marital dispute. It was a delicate balance. The trial started on a Monday in March. The courtroom was packed. Media from across the country. Domestic violence advocates. Other victims of the abuse network. And Zara. My sister sat in the front row every single day, staring at Derek, letting him see that she'd survived, that she was stronger than he'd ever given her credit for. The prosecution's opening statement was devastating. They laid out 4 years of systematic abuse. The escalation from verbal to physical to sexual violence. The financial control. The isolation. The threats. The conspiracy with his mother. The plans to murder Zara if she ever tried to leave. Derek's lawyer tried to paint him as a frustrated husband dealing with a difficult wife. Suggested that the violence was mutual. That Zara had provoked him. Classic victim blaming. The jury wasn't buying it. The first witness was Jamal's child psychologist. She testified about the severe trauma he'd experienced. Night terrors. Bedwetting. Anxiety. Depression. Fear of men. All consistent with a child who'd witnessed repeated domestic violence. She described Jamal's drawings. Pictures of his father hitting his mother. Pictures of his grandmother holding his mother down. Pictures of himself hiding under the bed crying. The jury looked sick. Derek's lawyer tried to discredit her on cross-examination. Suggested she'd coached Jamal. Led him to say certain things. But she was prepared. Presented her notes from every session. Showed the timeline of Jamal's disclosures. Proved that everything came from the child unprompted. The second witness was Zara's doctor. The one who'd treated her injuries over 4 years. Broken ribs. Concussions. Fractures. Burns. All documented. All photographed. All explained away at the time as accidents. Falls. Clumsiness. But the pattern was clear. The doctor testified that she'd suspected abuse for years, but Zara always denied it. Always protected Derek. Until 3 days when I'd brought her in, and she'd finally told the truth. The defense tried to argue that the injuries could have had other causes. But the doctor shut that down. These weren't random injuries. They were defensive wounds. Injuries consistent with being struck. Being choked. Being beaten repeatedly over a long period of time. Then came the financial expert. A forensic accountant who'd traced every dollar Derek had stolen. Showed the jury how he'd set up secret accounts. How he'd transferred money automatically. How he'd hidden assets. How he'd controlled every aspect of Zara's financial life while she worked full-time as a nurse. The defense couldn't touch this testimony. The numbers were irrefutable. Derek had systematically stolen from his wife for 4 years while convincing her she was bad with money and couldn't be trusted with finances. Day 4 of the trial they played the recordings. For hours of Derek confessing to everything. The courtroom was silent except for his voice describing his violence, his pride in controlling his wife, his plans to kill her if she tried to leave, his conspiracy with other abusers to share techniques. Several jurors were crying. Others looked furious. Derek sat at the defense table staring at his hands, unable to meet anyone's eyes. When his voice came through the speakers saying, "I'll make it look like an accident. A fall down the stairs. A car crash. Something tragic that no one will question," the entire courtroom reacted. Gasps. Whispers. Even the judge looked shocked. The defense tried to argue the recordings were taken out of context. But there was no context that made those words acceptable. No interpretation where confessing to planning your wife's murder was anything other than monstrous. Day 6, Zara testified. She walked to the stand slowly, head held high. She looked at Derek once. Just once. And he looked away. She told the jury everything. Meeting Derek. The courtship that seemed perfect. The wedding. The honeymoon. Then the slow erosion of who she was. The criticism. The isolation. The first time he hit her. The escalation. The financial abuse. The rape. The threats. The 4 years of hell. Her voice never wavered. Never broke. She was strong. Composed. Credible. Everything a victim is told they need to be believed. Derek's lawyer tried to destroy her on cross-examination. Implied she was lying. Exaggerating. That she'd provoked the violence. That she was a bad wife and mother. That she'd made up the abuse for sympathy and money. But Zara didn't break. She answered every question calmly. Pointed to the evidence. The photos. The medical records. The recordings. The financial documents. All of it corroborating her testimony. When the lawyer asked why she didn't leave sooner, Zara looked directly at the jury and said, "Because he told me he'd kill me if I tried. And I believed him. Because I'd seen what he was capable of." The courtroom was silent. Then it was my turn. I testified about getting the call from Zara. Finding her in the parking garage beaten nearly to death. Photographing her injuries. Hearing her story. Making the decision to swap places with her. I described the 3 days I spent in that house. Derek's violence. Simone's cruelty. The fear in Jamal's eyes. The systematic abuse I witnessed and experienced. The prosecutor asked me to describe the rape. I did. Clinically. Factually. Described Derek coming home drunk. Forcing himself on me. Using my body like it was his property. The jury looked horrified. Derek's lawyer tried to discredit me on cross-examination. Called me a vigilante. Accused me of entrapment. Suggested I'd provoked Derek. That I'd wanted him to be violent so I could record it. I looked at the lawyer and said Derek Cole didn't need provocation. He'd been beating my sister for 4 years. All I did was give him the opportunity to confess to crimes he'd already committed. Every act of violence was his choice. Every word he spoke was his truth. The lawyer tried again. Suggested I was biased because Zara was my sister. That I couldn't be objective. You're right. I can't be objective about a man who nearly killed my sister. Who raped her repeatedly. Who threatened to murder her. Who traumatized my nephew. No one could be objective about that. But the evidence is objective. The recordings don't lie. The financial records don't lie. The medical documents don't lie. Derek Cole is an abuser and the evidence proves it. The defense had no response. Simone testified in her own defense. Tried to play the victim. Claimed she'd been abused by her husband for 40 years and didn't know any better. That she was just doing what she thought was right. That Derek had manipulated her too. But the prosecution destroyed her. Played recordings of her voice encouraging Derek. Telling him to teach me a lesson. Threatening to help him take Jamal away. Holding me down while he kicked me. She wasn't a victim. She was an enthusiastic participant. The defense called Derek to testify. Big mistake. He tried to charm the jury. Apologize. Say he was stressed at work. That he'd made mistakes. That he loved Zara and never meant to hurt her. But the prosecutor eviscerated him. Asked him to explain the recordings. The confessions. The plans to murder his wife. The theft of $200,000. The conspiracy with other abusers. Derek couldn't answer. Stammered. Contradicted himself. Finally just said, I don't remember saying those things. The prosecutor played the recording again. Derek's voice clear as day. I'll kill you. I'll make it look like an accident. Do you remember saying that, Mr. Cole? Derek was silent. Mr. Cole, the jury is waiting. Do you remember threatening to murder your wife? I was angry. I didn't mean it. You didn't mean it. But you researched how to make it look like an accident. You talked to other men who'd done it. You had a plan. I never would have actually done it. But you thought about it. Planned it. Threatened it. And if my client hadn't intervened, do you think Zara Cole would still be alive today? Derek didn't answer. Mr. Cole, answer the question. If Prosecutor Williams hadn't swapped places with your wife, if Zara had stayed in that house, do you think she'd still be alive? I don't know. You don't know. But you told her multiple times you'd kill her if she tried to leave. Correct? Yes. And you'd beaten her unconscious multiple times. Correct? Yes. And you'd researched ways to commit murder and make it look accidental. Correct? Yes. No further questions. Derek left the stand looking destroyed. The jury wouldn't even look at him. Closing arguments were powerful. The prosecution went through every piece of evidence. Every confession. Every act of violence. Every threat. Painted a picture of a man who'd systematically tortured his wife for 4 years and would have killed her if given the chance. The defense tried to argue that Derek had mental health issues. That he needed treatment, not prison. That he could be rehabilitated. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. Derek Cole. Guilty of 15 counts of assault. 8 counts of sexual assault. 4 counts of making criminal threats. Multiple counts of financial fraud. Conspiracy to commit murder. Child endangerment. Simone Cole. Guilty as an accomplice on 12 counts. When the verdict was read, Derek collapsed. Started sobbing. Begging for mercy. Saying he was sorry. Zara sat in the gallery watching. Her face was calm. Peaceful. Justice had been served. Sentencing happened 2 weeks later. The judge was a woman in her 60s who'd presided over domestic violence cases for 30 years. She'd seen everything. But even she looked disgusted as she read Derek's sentence. Mr. Cole, you have committed some of the most heinous acts of domestic violence I've seen in my career. You systematically tortured your wife for 4 years. You traumatized your child. You conspired with other abusers to share techniques on how to terrorize women. You planned your wife's murder. You are a danger to society and you will be removed from it for as long as the law allows. She sentenced him to 28 years in federal prison. No possibility of parole for 20 years. Simone got 12 years for being an accomplice. Both were also ordered to pay restitution. Every dollar Derek stole plus damages. Over $500,000 total. Derek was led away in handcuffs, still crying. Simone was silent. Defeated. Outside the courthouse, Zara and I stood together facing a crowd of reporters. Domestic violence advocates. Other victims who'd found the courage to come forward because of our case. Zara stepped up to the microphone. Her voice was strong. Clear. My name is Zara Williams Cole. For 4 years, I was a victim of domestic violence. My husband beat me. Raped me. Threatened to kill me. Stole from me. Isolated me. Traumatized my son. I stayed because I was afraid. Because he'd convinced me I was worthless. Because I thought there was no way out. She paused. Looked at the cameras. But I was wrong. There is always a way out. It's hard. It's scary. It's dangerous. But it's possible. And I'm here today to tell every person in an abusive relationship that you can survive. You can escape. You can rebuild your life. The crowd erupted in applause. Zara continued. I also want to say this to abusers. Your victims are stronger than you think. Smarter than you give them credit for. And one day they will find the courage to expose you. To fight back. To destroy the life you built on their suffering. Derek Cole thought he was invincible. Thought I'd never leave. Thought he could control me forever. He was wrong. And every abuser who thinks the same thing is wrong too. More applause. Cheers. People crying. I stepped up next to my sister. Put my arm around her. My name is Amara Williams. I'm a prosecutor. I've spent my career putting violent criminals in prison. But I never understood the full horror of domestic violence until I saw what it did to my sister. Until I lived it myself for 3 days. I looked directly at the cameras. This case exposed a network of 15 men who were systematically abusing their wives and sharing techniques on how to do it without getting caught. 12 of them are now facing charges. The other 3 are under investigation. This isn't just about one bad man. It's about a culture that enables abuse. That tells men they have the right to control women. That tells victims they deserved it or provoked it or should have left sooner. I took a breath. We need to do better. We need to believe victims when they tell us they're being hurt. We need to hold abusers accountable. We need to teach our children that violence is never acceptable. That love doesn't hurt. That no one has the right to harm another person, no matter the relationship. The reporters started shouting questions, but I held up my hand. One more thing. To everyone watching who's in an abusive relationship right now, document everything. Take photos. Record conversations. Save text messages. Hide money if you can. Tell someone you trust. Make a safety plan. And know that when you're ready to leave, there are people who will help you. Domestic violence hotlines. Shelters. Legal aid. You are not alone. Zara squeezed my hand. And to the abusers. We're coming for you. Every victim you've silenced will find their voice. Every crime you've committed will be exposed. Every threat you've made will be used against you. Your time is running out. 6 months after the trial, I sat in my office reviewing case files. There was a knock on my door. Come in. Zara walked in. She looked different. Healthy. Her hair was styled. She was wearing makeup. She was smiling. Really smiling for the first time in years. Hey sis. Hey. What are you doing here? I got a job. Head nurse at the children's hospital. They offered it to me this morning. I jumped up and hugged her. That's amazing. I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have done it without you. Yes, you could have. You're the strongest person I know. She sat down. How's Jamal? Better. His therapist says he's making real progress. He's sleeping through the night now. No more nightmares. He joined a soccer team. Made some friends. He's starting to be a kid again. That's good. That's really good. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Do you ever regret it? Zara asked. What you did? The 3 days in that house. I thought about it. The violence I'd endured. The rape. The fear in Jamal's eyes. The rage I'd felt. No, I don't regret it. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. It must have been horrible. It was. But it was worth it. Derek's in prison. You're safe. Jamal's healing. And we exposed an entire network of abusers. 12 men are facing charges because of the evidence we gathered. That's 12 families who are safer now. Zara nodded. I saw the news. 3 more women came forward. Wives of the men you arrested. They're testifying against them. The dominoes are falling. That's what happens when one person finds the courage to speak up. It gives others permission to do the same. I wish I'd been that brave 4 years ago. You were surviving. That takes a different kind of bravery. She looked at me. Can I ask you something? Anything. How did you do it? How did you endure what he did and not break? I thought about how to answer. Because I knew it was temporary. I knew I was gathering evidence. I knew it would end. You didn't have that. You thought it would go on forever. That's the difference. That's why you're the brave one, not me. Zara's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, Amara. For everything. For believing me. For saving me. For being my sister. Always. If you're watching this story, you need to understand something. Domestic violence is not about love gone wrong. It's about power and control. It's about one person systematically destroying another person's sense of self-worth, safety, and freedom. Here are the warning signs you need to know. Extreme jealousy disguised as love. Isolation from friends and family. Financial control where one person controls all the money. Constant criticism that destroys your self-esteem. Blaming you for their violence, saying you provoked it or deserved it. Threats of violence if you try to leave. Monitoring your phone, your location, your activities. Destroying your property to intimidate you. Forcing you to account for every minute of your day. If you recognize these signs in your relationship, you are in danger. Abuse always escalates. It never gets better on its own. It only gets worse. If you are being abused, document everything. Take photos of injuries even if you're not ready to report them. Save threatening text messages and emails. Record conversations if it's legal in your state. Keep a journal with dates and details. Hide copies where your abuser can't find them. Cloud storage. A trusted friend's house. A safety deposit box. Evidence saves lives. Make a safety plan before you leave. Abusers are most dangerous when they're losing control. Have a place to go. Money saved. Important documents ready. A support system in place. Call the Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. They can help you plan. Know that leaving is hard and dangerous. The average victim tries to leave 7 times before succeeding. Don't blame yourself if you go back. Don't let anyone shame you. You are doing the best you can in an impossible situation. For friends and family, if someone tells you they're being abused, believe them. Don't judge them for staying. Don't pressure them to leave before they're ready. Offer concrete help. A place to stay. Money. Childcare. Keep communication open even if they push you away. Be patient. The truth is, abuse only stops when abusers face real consequences. Not couples counseling. Not anger management. Not promises to change. Prison, restraining orders. Loss of custody. Public exposure. Financial ruin. That's what stops abusers. Derek Cole spent 4 years destroying my sister. I spent 3 days destroying him. His career is over. His reputation is ruined. He's in prison for 28 years. And every day he wakes up in a cell he knows it was his own choices that put him there. That's justice. If you're being abused, you can survive this. You can escape. You can rebuild. Zara did. Thousands of other survivors did. You can too. And if you're an abuser, know this. Your victims will find their voice. Your crimes will be exposed. Your time will run out. We are coming for you. What would you do if this was your sister? Could you be as brave as Amara? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. This message could save a life. What country are you watching from? Let me know below.